Hey YouTubers, Dre Crawford here, Recoveryone Drones. Have you seen it late? I put out a couple of videos on the new DJI M30T that I purchased, and just give you folks an idea of what it's capable of. I'm going to cover some things in detail that are not discussed on a lot of channels that I think it should be discussed to not discourage anybody, but let people aware of what this drone can do and what it cannot do. So we're going to proceed on and go through the pros and cons list. And we're going to hit up each point one by one. So we're going to start off on the pro list. As always, start with the positive. And a lot of these things are what we expect to get for this amount of money and for this level of drone. First on the list is going to be the RC Plus controller. Ever since we had the Inspire 2 come out, we've had these, I would say, enterprise level controllers that go along with these drones. Most of them come with the ability to be controlled by multiple controllers, one for the pilot. Additional thing with this M30T is the fact that this has a handoff system built into it, to where if another person who is downrange a little further can pick up control of the drone while the primary person releases it. And that allows you to have continual flight beyond visual line of sight from the original person to the next person, and he can fly it until he goes beyond visual line of sight. But beyond visual line of sight may be a thing of the past. Like I said, there is moves to bring this down to at least Part 107 pilots without the extra waiver process, but we'll have to wait and see, because we all know that remote ID, the lawsuit filed by the one FPV community, failed in its effort to try to have it rewritten. So as we see today, the remote ID legislation will be implemented as written. In actuality, that actually takes place starting, I believe, is this October. But there is a 18 window grace period, so don't everybody get excited and get upset thinking that your drone will no longer fly, or you're going to be required to buy a new drone or whatever. Because right now the FAA has not put out any specific guidelines to the manufacturers at this time, or future developers, on what remote ID should look like, or what the actual specs should look like for future use. So that might be on the back burner for a little bit longer, but technically the law will be going to activation as of this October of 2022. The next thing is, which is a step up, is the IP rating on the drone. I'm not going to sit there and throw water on mine, on the controller or the drone to test it out, but it is rated at IP of 55 for the system itself, and which is very good, which basically means you can operate this thing day or night. I would say in snowy conditions, I would say light rain. I would not have it out there in torrential rain, but it can handle an easy storm for the most part. Next on the list is going to be the hot swapping batteries. Well, we've had hot swapping batteries for a while now, so that's not really a brand new type of thing, a feature, because like I say, starting back to my knowledge with the Inspire 2, you had hot swappable batteries. All of the 210s, 300s all have hot swappable batteries, so that's nothing new. The next on the list is going to be redundancy. Same thing. We've had redundancy in drones ever since the Phantom 4 Pro series came about. Maybe not as extensive as this unit, but we've had everything from redundancy in compass chips, IMUs, and so forth. So redundancy is not a real big leap forward, but it's just showing the consistency of what we expect in our enterprise system. The last is kind of like a gimme, versatility in the air. And what makes this thing so versatile basically is the camera system. You have a total of 4 cameras on this system, going from a wide lens, standard lens, zoom lens, and an FPV mode. I'm not going to count the laser rangefinder. That is an extra bonus. in there, but it has a standard 4 cameras, and they all simultaneously record to the SD card at any given time. The only other factor that makes this drone unique at the enterprise level is the folding legs, which makes it more compact, makes it easy to transport, and so on and so forth. So that gives it a really big plus compared to the M300s, the 210s, 200 series at that level. That the transport ability of this drone is quite impressive. Going to build quality. This is a sturdy drone. It's maybe not as big as a 300 or maybe not as big as a 200, 210 series, but it carries a little bit hefty weight. You can pick it up with one hand, but make sure you don't have wet or slippery fingers, because this thing can fall out of your hand if you're not careful, you know, gathering around. There's no built-in hand grip or handles to pick this up, so you got to grip it in your hand with a good grip and maintain it. It also flies, it's expected of an enterprise level. It can handle winds up to 35 miles per hour. And like I said before, it can handle some light rain. There's the question of the noise level. This thing, to me, flying everything from Mavic 2 Pros, the Enterprise Advanced, and now this, I would say 200 feet and below, you're going to hear this thing coming. It's not going to hide from you. You get above 300 feet, right above the ceiling level, 400, it can sneak up on somebody with a lot of ambient noise around it and everything else, like a city atmosphere. We got a lot of vehicles and other noises within the area. But if you're out there in the middle of nowhere, dead quiet, you'll hear this thing coming from at least a quarter of a mile away. Next on the list will be good flight time. Yeah, it has, I would say, decent flight time is what I expect at a drone at this level. It would have been really excellent if it could have matched the flight time of the M300. That would have really been, I think, a step up for this drone overall. The M300 gives you around 55 minutes laboratory type flight time. This comes in at 41, and like I said, in real life applications, I would say actual on scene, on flight mode itself, you probably get a good 30 to 33 minutes of actual flight. Now I tell people you got to take into account your takeoff levels of flight and also your return to home. You're not doing anything during that process. So like I say, flight time I've seen is around between 30 to 33 minutes of flight, which is still very good overall. Yes, the next one would be, it is much smaller than the 300 and the 210 if you look at those. Now we're going to look at the cons, and I'm going to debate them, because this is off a list that somebody else put out. I don't agree with everything on the list, because this is a work drone. Okay, this is not a cinematic drone. I tell people, you want cinematic, go buy the Mavic 3 or go get you Inspire. Those are drones that are really made for and built for cinematography. This is a work drone. It's made for inspections, it's made for first responders, and that is what the purpose of this is for. Because one of the first knocks I read online a lot is that it has a fixed photo and video ratio. Well, guess what? It's not a cinematic drone. You're gonna get, everything's gonna be pretty much auto settings, so there is no adjustable aperture on this thing. You're going to be limited to 30 frames per second, no matter if you shoot in 1080p or you shoot in 4K. That's just the way it rolls. People talk about the ability to do high res or whatever photos. You got 2 cameras on this thing. One shoots in a native 12 megapixel camera. The other one gives you a interpolated 48 megapixel camera, just like on the Enterprise Advanced. Like I said, this is a work drone, not a cinematography drone. People even complain about the half-inch sensor. Half-inch sensor is not bad, which most of the drones that have come before it only had half-inch sensors or even less. If it had a full 1-inch sensor, the payload, which is the camera up front, will have to be a little bit larger than what it is. So for everything that is built into that camera system that hangs in the front of this thing, a 1/2-inch sensor is pretty decent. But that's what people give a knock on it. The next one I don't get. People put down here, I see where no orbit or hyperlapse. Well, to me, I'm gonna cover this in a nutshell. Once again, this is a work drone for first responders and inspection purposes are the main focus here. Hyperlapse is not a big deal for people who do this kind of work. Orbits, based on put this under one thing, master shots. Don't need no master shots. You need to be the master of the drone. You need to be the master of the controls. If you want to go do an orbit, you fly that orbit manually so you maintain control. This is not, like I said, it's not a cinematic drone where you want to get the go to master shots and have you give a point of interest and you just fly in a circle, which can be done if you go into the pilot app and you set up waypoints with a point of interest, so you get your orbits. But there's no quick shot list on this drone. And like I said before, your frame rates are going to be stuck at 30 frames per second. No matter if you shoot 1080p or 4K, you're going to get 30 frames per second. Another thing is also, we're going to talk about this next thing, because of the size and the, I guess, the design of the payload, the camera system up front, I don't see ND filters being made for it. I know it was quite the challenge even to make ND filters for the Mavic 3 because of the multiple cameras on it. I do not see ND filter coming from anybody soon. In my opinion personally, don't see the need for it for what the need of this system does. Like I said, I can't say this enough, it's a work drone. The next complaint somebody had was can't zoom smoothly. Well, guess what? It's not a cinematic drone. You're not going to get smoothed in zoomness. It's going to go in stages so you get more accurate zoom. You know exactly how much you are zoomed in. So nothing is going to continually flow in smoothly and come back out like you're trying to get some kind of dolly shot or whatever. You can achieve those type of shots by getting to a fixed zoom level, and then you manually fly the drone to get a dolly shot, either coming in or backing out if that's what you desire to do. The focus is locked for a purpose, and it will refocus because you're trying to use it for inspection purposes. Next one here, the active track, it says it's not easy. No, the active track is not easy if you're trying to shoot something up close. And that's mainly because it's hard for you to lock onto something, especially if it's a moving object. I would suggest anybody, if you're going to use the tracking system on this remote with this drone, that you try to capture whatever the object is, a vehicle, person, someone on a bike or whatever, catch that individual standing still or not moving, and then the drone will continue to track from there, and it does not lose you very easily. It will maintain and guess where the next move will be. If you go past a building or a tree or what the case is, it will try to anticipate where you will come out to next. And before I forget, the next thing I want to talk about on the photo side of this thing, it does not shoot RAW. Just like the Enterprise Advanced, it does not shoot RAW. So those you guys think you're going to do residential or commercial real estate shots and the person wants them in RAW, this is not the drone for you. Okay, most of this, all this is going to shoot in JPEG only, just like the Enterprise Advanced shoots in JPEG only. Maybe down the road, DJI may do a firmware update that allows it to shoot in RAW, but it does not come RAW natively. And same thing with the Enterprise Advanced does not. Another person, like always, somebody's going to complain because of the previous packaging of the drones. They're complaining it didn't come with a spotlight, doesn't come with a speaker, and they say it's the same thermal camera as the M2EA. Well, guess what? It's the same thermal camera that comes on the M300 also at the basic level. So one over the other. So I don't know why somebody's complaining. That just shows me that someone has not really dove into this line of work. If you're complaining about the same thermal camera, this camera is at the industry standard, 640 by 512. That's industry standards. For FLIR, Bison, whoever else, that's the industry standard. So most people should be happy that you're getting the same level thermal camera that's on the M300, and it also comes on the Enterprise Advanced. So those who have owned the very older Mavic 2 Dual, which had a very low res camera, they can attest to going up to this 640/512 is a big step up from the previous levels before. This person complained about hard to carry around. Well, my suggestion to you is go get you a gym membership if it's that hard for you to carry around. This is, like I say, this is a first responder, industrial type use drone, enterprise level. It is made to do work. And like for me, I tell a lot of people, no matter where I go, I'm carrying 2 drones at all times, because you never know if you're going to run into something, have a failure, something else may happen, and you got to break out your backup drone. So something carrying around, that just tells me you're used to dealing with Air 2S's, Airs, Minis, things of that nature. If you're complaining about carrying around, people used to have that big knock about the Phantom. Oh, it's so bulky, this and that. I said, if you think this is hard to carry around, maybe you should backtrack down to a Mavic 3 or a Phantom 4, something of that nature, so it won't hurt your arms or back that much. But this is a real deal drone that is made to be transported to a location and fly further out if need be. So overall, this is some of the questions I've seen of late. I've had mine for about 2 weeks now, and I'm still, learning some things about it. I want to thank Billy Kyle for some information I asked him. I want to thank those other dealers that are out there who I've watched some of their videos, who have done demonstrations of it. But like I said, you never know a drone till you get it into your own hands and it's yours to deal with. And that way it makes it more that you're going to be more interested in reading the manual, what few pages there are to read in English. They don't give you a whole lot. I added on the spotlight and speaker system to it. There is little to no information on that. It's kind of like trial and error. Even going through the menus on the controller, I had to reseat the USB-C cable on top for that menu popped up, because it didn't show up right away, even though the drone initialized itself, but I guess I didn't have it pushed down completely. But like I say, when you have this drone in your own pocket, you have to really go through it, learn all the menus as much as possible if you can, because there's just so much information in that controller for you to deal with. And I found out the other night when I was flying that you just can't fly this like you would a cinematic type drone. And it basically comes down to familiarity more than anything else. And the size of the remote control, where you know exactly where your fingers are at, you know exactly what buttons on the side and everything else. Like I told people in my other video, there's a total of 6 buttons on each side of the controller on its face. Everything from the power button to return to home button, the five-way rotating wheel, besides the 3 buttons right next to the panel itself, the viewing panel, and other things as far as your back page buttons. So there's 6 buttons right there. You have a certain amount of other buttons on the side below the gimbal rotating wheel, and also the scroll wheel, and you have a second scroll wheel for zoom when you're in that mode. And there's other buttons on there besides just activating the shutter for the video and for the regular single shots. So there's a lot of things for you to touch and tickle with if you desire to do so. But you gotta remember, when you're holding this thing, you can inadvertently hit one of these buttons and change what you're looking at on the screen. and can throw you off for a quick second if you're not careful. So like I say, the hands-on on this controller is the biggest learning curve, and I can't say that say that enough, I should say. And I just want to wish everybody a safe day. Go out and fly as much as possible, and take care of one another. As I always say, hang on, enjoy the ride. Please subscribe, throw some comments in there on this. If I missed anything, if you got questions about anything, please ask me. I'll tell you what I know, and if I don't know, I'll find out and get it back to you. Later.